And then we can go ahead and go to the Finance Committee report, and then Superintendent can just send a message in the chat if you know when Sarah Young returns. Is that okay?
That's great. And I can also, the CARES Act item, I think she really needs to lead the P20, but I can do the other one if you want to take care of that.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the CARES Act item 8.2, CARES Act set aside. Superintendent.
Okay, thank you. I think that Sarah Young did a great job of laying this out, both in an email and then you'll see it here in the documents. I'm going to wait. It sounds like somebody's got their mic on. Okay. So basically, this comes from our conversation about the 10% set aside that we've laid out for you on a couple of occasions, and wanting to seek action from the board to approve some of that set aside. Both Sarah Young and Christensen have been working on this. We've had a few other hands on deck, but really trying to see what we can procure for our schools as a state to get both a better pricing and a supply line. So they've been working on a couple of things. The first thing that happened, and this was actually the first week that we were in remote learning, I asked Betty Sue Hinkson, who works with both us and the health department, to do an inventory of our thermometers. And I've described this to you in past meetings. So she worked with Zach and they did some pricing and found that we basically need about 600 thermometers to ensure that all of our schools have an up-to-date thermometer. And that would cost around $75,000 for that, and some disposable masks. We started talking about schools who have ordered masks, and there's another procurement coming through at a later date that will add masks. But this is specifically for kiddos who might come to school and be sick at school and needing to put a child-sized mask on younger kiddos. So having those available in the schools as part of a health kit is something that we haven't had in the past. So those are two items that we're seeking approval on for up to $75,000 out of the 10% set aside in the CARES Act. So I'll stop there.
Okay. Are you seeking a motion individually for each of these?
Would you like me to move forward? I can speak to the second one as well, and then we can seek two motions if that works.
Okay, please go forward with the second one.
So the second actionable item and the second motion we're seeking is for a broader scope of procurement. And again, this is to try and get through the pipeline of procurement, which sometimes can be tricky. And then second, to have these things in stock that we can send out to the LEAs to help them use their CARES Act money set aside for other items. So this is something that fits within the scope of our 10% and something that we think we can support them on. So sanitizing wipes and hand sanitizer has been hard to come by, specifically the hand sanitizing stands. That's something we still can't get our hands on, but we can procure some bottles and refills for now. Also, face shields is something that is in high demand and short supply. And then having some medical gowns, much like those disposable masks, to put in health kits in the school. So those are some things that we've been working on with procurement, getting pricing, and working with state procurement as well, who have been getting these for other entities. And that would, if we could just set aside up to $2 million, we may not need all of that, but I think our total amount of set aside is 6.7. So we would still have money left that we can hold to see what the board might think that we can support schools on in the near future. So for now, these are kind of some immediate things trying to get up to speed for school to start. And I think Sarah Young has it both in the background and in an email she sent to you all last night. And if Zach, I think, is on the call, if he wants to weigh in as well.
Okay, we have a couple of questions from board members. Board member Earl.
I have a couple questions. One of those has to do with, how is a district will they just notify you that they're interested and in need of thermometers? How are we going to facilitate the disbursement of the items? And then my other just comment is for the rest of the funding, I would strongly recommend we wait until fall or a little bit later to find where the holes are in our needs. So that's just my question and comment.
Thank you, Board Member Earl. So to the first question about thermometers, this is something that we already have in inventory where Betty Sue Hinkson went school by school to find out what their needs are. So we know where to disperse those. We know the schools that need them. We have that on file already. So we would just send those out. As to your comment, in regards to motion 2 and the procurement for these other items, again, that's information that we have received from schools. So we already know the things that they can't get or that they're having a hard time getting. So that's where this list came from. And our hope would be to set aside then what is the remaining of about 4 million plus that we would plug those holes. So that's exactly where I think we're on the same page of wanting to hold that back to figure out what they need once school starts. The urgency here with these motions is that we're trying to get this in place before school starts in the fall, and to wait until fall, especially for motion 2, would be far too late given the pipeline.
No, I agree with where we're moving. I think we're responsibly assisting. I just wanted to know about the disbursement. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Board member Thorpe.
So my question is about, so it looks like regarding thermometers, we've got 600. That wouldn't necessarily, so that would be one per school that's missing one. So would then the school be providing other thermometers, or are we just saying one is enough for an entire school? Is that, I just wanted some clarification on that, because I feel like before COVID-19, 600 thermometers, one each is probably sufficient, but now we may be looking at a different scenario. So I just wondered, what is the conversation around that, and how far does that get us to what the new need is, or is that just backfilling what was missing because we didn't have working thermometers in each school?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a great question, and I'll give you my best answer, which is probably outdated. And I see that Zach's on the call, so he could chime in here. When Betty Sue Hinkson did her survey of the schools, it was clear that some actually had the thermometers that they needed. So they'd already engaged in procurement and they had up-to-date thermometers. And that ranged everywhere from that down to the story you've heard me tell of the one mercury thermometer. So it's really trying to make sure that everybody has at least one digital or working thermometer. And there are schools who have gone ahead and purchased a number of thermometers so that they have them in each school. I do want to point out that it's not enough just to have a working thermometer, but there has to be training as well for those that are using the thermometers and how to read them and knowing what the appropriate temperature guidelines are. So that's something else that we will provide guidance on and training on for not only the nurses, but our office workers and et cetera.
Yes. If I may, this is Zach Christensen, Director of Purchasing and Contracts.
Yes, please.
Yes, Superintendent is exactly right. Betty Sue had done the survey of all the different schools, and the thermometers that we have identified are the digital no-touch thermometers, which would be able to, I think, provide a more current technology that would help provide a little bit more safety when using those in those schools that currently don't have it. So that would be that backfill, and that was the need that Betty Sue identified.
Thank you. Next, we have board member Lear.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the staff doing this. I had no idea they were. It was something that made me very concerned and anxious. Learned that that staff members were working on this, and I don't think this is where I think that the state board can be a great resource and really help LEAs pick up part of the slack that they can't do everything, and I'm just thrilled that we're doing it. And I think undue haste, there is no undue haste. It needs to happen as fast as it can. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, then I seek a motion for recommendation number 1.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Jenny Gravett, second.
Okay, the motion before us is that the board approve USBE staff setting aside up to $75,000 for the Utah K-12 from the Utah K-12 CARES SEA 10% set aside to procure the following personal protective equipment for LEAs: 600 thermometers and 50,000 disposable masks. Is there any discussion to that motion? Board Member Lear?
No, sorry. Just didn't raise, lower my head. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other hands for discussion, please vote. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. I now would seek a motion for recommendation number 2.
So moved.
Moved. Board Member Lear.
Okay, is there a second?
Board Member Newell.
Okay. The motion before us is that the board approve USBE staff setting aside up to $2 million from the Utah K-12 CARES SEA 10% set aside to pursue quotes and procurement for the following materials in coordination with state purchasing: 1, sanitizing wipes; 2, hand sanitizer bottles and refills; 3, face shields; and 4, medical gowns. Is there any discussion to that motion? Board Member Davis?
I'd like to speak to the motion. I think this is a great motion. I would like to just, as an aside, ask that if there are any hand sanitizing supplies that are more gentle on little children's skin than what we see in a Germ-X bottle, that's also still approved by the CDC, that be considered for our elementary students. And that's just kind of an informal request that I hope we'll consider as we move forward.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other hands for discussion, please vote on the motion. Motion 2. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Sorry, and I just want to add for the public that Board Member Bolter is present. Board Member Earl is present, and Board Member Cannon is also present, and Board Member Davis, who were not present during the roll call. So just take a note of that. Okay. Okay, that takes us, thank you, Superintendent, for helping us get through that agenda item. Is Sarah Young present yet?
She is not, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay.
If we can hold that P20 as late in the agenda as possible, that would be helpful.
Okay,